Would you please state your name and your affiliation? Next speakers.
Hi, I'm Irene.
And I'm Kristy.
And we're from the Mitty Advocacy Project, Archbishop Mitty High School's student-run advocacy team. First, we'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to witness and experience a matter that's very important to us as youth. And we're here today to provide an important youth perspective on the issue and ideas on how we can go about preventing hate crimes within the school context so that we can address the offense itself before it becomes an issue of being misreported. So far, most efforts to address hate crimes have been concentrated in law enforcement, but we suggest that action should also be taken to address one of the root causes of these crimes, subconscious prejudices, or more specifically, implicit bias. And we believe that this can be best implemented within the educational context, where such prejudices and biases are more easily cultivated.
Furthermore, during our junior year social justice classes, we actually had a unit on implicit bias, and I can confidently state that those classes have been one of the most transformative classes towards my thinking mindset. When I discussed the results with my peers, the general consensus was that though some of the truths unveiled through the implicit bias unit were uncomfortable, they were truths that were needed to be faced and ones that changed the way we think. And that was something that's super important in identifying the biases that are clouding our perspective. However, bringing the topic of implicit bias to the conversation shouldn't be limited just to juniors or even high schoolers. It should be something that should be brought to all grade levels, because implicit bias is a psychological instinct that everyone has. The main point is that people aren't born prejudiced. It's something that's cultivated through experience. And in order to truly address the root cause of hate crimes, we need to be able to prevent these biases from spiraling out of control and becoming something that's manifested in hate crimes. And in order to do that, we need to be able to bring the conversation of implicit bias to the conversation table before it becomes an issue that becomes out of hand.
Thank you very much for coming all the way from Santa Clara. And your special interest in the hate crime. The whole class show up on my last hearing in the Milpitas, so thank you. Thank you so much. I was wondering what happened to the rest of the Mitty class, and now I can see them all trickling in now. So go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ashir, and I'm also from the Mitty Advocacy Project, our student-run advocacy organization. And so beyond what my fellow students said, we also believe that we need to take action in reforming the way that we report this process by allowing more hate crime data to actually reach the FBI's reporting. The FBI in its annual hate crime reported by the police departments across the country only lists around 5,000 or 6,000 reports per year. This means that more than 100,000 people a year are reporting their crimes to the police about being victimized by a hate crime, but these reports fail to turn up in the FBI's national reports. And this is largely because the number of crimes reported by law enforcement is a lot higher than those that are actually called up for prosecutorial action, since the latter requires a specific defendant in order to be prosecuted. And so, however, this denies the victim's crime and leads to skewed statistics. Thus, we emphasize for more true reporting of the statistics by actually emphasizing the amount that's emphasized by law enforcement in a change to the Penal Code 13.023. And secondarily, more widely publicizing such statistics about the crime and what information is being collected will allow for more accountability in the system. This is because organizations such as ProPublica have actually been able to show the efficacy of releasing such information to the public. Following their reporting on hate crimes, several issues were brought into the light, leading to tangible change. For example, a group of 9 senators led by Senator Patty Murray and sent a letter to the educational secretary Betsy DeVos by actually seeing what the administration would do in response to racist harassment. And 4 members of RAM were arrested with their roles in the California rally in 2017. The public not only has the right to know, but it also has the ability to bring the issue to the forefront and create permanent solutions, which is why this is so crucial for the public to understand.
Thank you so much. Next.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rhon. I'm also part of the Mitty Advocacy Project. I guess today my sort of topic is a little bit different from what my fellow mapmates have been talking about. My queries primarily with the industry of policing as a whole. Oftentimes it feels that in discussions of hate crimes, we almost always talk about law enforcement agencies that can respond to hate crimes. But this seems to provide them some sort of distancing from the actual perpetration of hate in the first place. Given the long legacy of police brutality, unjust targeting, and just them having way too much power, the police themselves become one of the biggest perpetrators of hate crime. From the myriad of killings of innocent black folks, to the sexual harassment of queer folks, to the terrorist stigma that people that look like me face. The police themselves have also become the perpetrators of hate. In any discussion of how to mitigate hate crimes, we have to start with increasing the accountability of those we put in charge of protecting us. This is not to say, of course, that all law enforcement is bad, but rather that there's a general trend of unjust violence that needs some oversight. Almost every time I see a cop, a shudder goes down my spine. My head goes downwards and my pace quickens. Before I can trust the cops that will protect me from the violence that I would face, I would first have to trust that being in the presence of cops will make me more safe in the first place. Look, it should be pretty simple, right? When I go down after school to go get a glass of boba, I shouldn't be threatened by the presence of police cars in the area. I shouldn't have to hasten my step. If we want to talk about mitigating hate crimes, we have to start from the hate crimes that are in our own communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker, please.
Hi, we're Arushi and Priyanka, and we are the last speakers from the Mitty Advocacy Project. So as we mentioned previously in the hearing, the issue with hate crimes isn't really the punishment protocol, but more so an issue of mishandling the reporting of the hate crimes. And we feel like this is an issue that goes far beyond law enforcement and into the educational sphere, which is why we're advocating for a redefinition of the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, which distorts student privacy laws and makes it so students aren't always able to report being the victims of hate crimes. And as students ourselves, the issue resonates especially strongly, because though this statute is meant to protect student privacy, it's been remodeled as a way for schools to opt out of accountability. So ultimately, schools are invoking questions of student privacy, not because it makes students safer, but because it insulates school officials from having their disciplinary decisions second-guessed.
One example of FERPA's insufficiency in this regard was when an African-American high school student went public a couple of years ago with the allegations that another student swung a noose at him, pulled a knife, and called him racial slurs. But when the student attempted to report the incident, the superintendent cited FERPA and told the public little more that the situation was appropriately handled. In another instance, after the Parkland shooting, the public demanded answers to whether or not appropriate steps were taken to prevent such a tragedy from happening, and again, FERPA was cited to allow the school district to dodge liability. Thus, we believe that a solution needs to be passed in California that addresses FERPA, or more specifically, Section 99.31A1IA of the law. This section covers exceptions to the prior consent rule in FERPA. However, the issue is that this section makes all decisions for disclosure optional for school administration. Given the vague and non-binding nature of the resolution ACR 108, we need to make sure that we are taking active legislative steps not only to stop hate crimes in law enforcement, but also at their root cause. And we hope that you, as our representatives, feel the same way.
And that's exactly why we're proposing that you pass legislation addressing where FERPA says that an educational institute or agency, quote, may disclose information, and we would change the phrase to must disclose. And that in itself would redefine the rest of the section to ensure openness and accountability in the education system, which would eradicate vague notions that make the school system inadequate at protecting us as students. And we require such a multi-pronged approach when addressing such a pervasive problem. So thank you for your time, and we hope that this consideration goes addressed. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any additional speaker? Please come forward. Seeing none, I just wanted to thank the panelists, and especially those who travel afar to join us. And thank you for the public. Well, with that, I will adjourn this hearing. Thank you very much for coming.